Hi guys, Ali Duzette here, and I'm here with Naomi Fox Reyna, who runs elixology.com. She teaches a light-filled astrology certification where it's basically a safe space for practicing Christians like the two of us to go and learn about how to read the stars from an explicitly God-centered perspective that honors kind of the biblical worldview and um, God-centered hearts like ours. I feel like it can be hard to find a source where you can learn about the stars and actually trust what you're hearing. And so I just love the work that Naomi does to create that safe space for people who are like me and like deeply care. The most important thing is my relationship with God. How can I study the stars in a space that's gonna honor that relationship? Um, so Naomi, thank you for hanging out with me so much this week. I love it so much. I hope everyone is just having the best time. Today, we wanted to talk about practical things that we can do with this eclipse energy. And I have to say, I have some plans for things that we're going to do together during that eclipse portal. And so, don't worry, we're not going to leave you hanging, but we wanted to just talk about in general, what are some of the practical things that an individual human can notice this eclipse portal is happening and then like sit down and look within and get started. What are we supposed to do with this stuff? Okay, over to you.
I love it so much, Allie. And I feel like you do such a beautiful job of providing the practical, like actual day to day for the people that follow, like, and subscribe to your channel. Like, get the little notifications too. I'm telling you, you won't forget it. Like I do. I legit like get her notifications every morning when they come out. And so like as I'm just getting ready or whatever, I just listen to her videos. And it's like always such a beautiful start to my day. So super recommend that. Um, and and like I'm an expert in astrology, and I live a similar life to Allie in that I'm always doing the work and all of that, and I still get tons out of it. So this is for the advanced as well as the newbie, like for sure. So you and I, Allie, we both run a lot of Virgo energy, and Virgo is one of the more practical signs because it's an earth sign. Like you are a Virgo sun and I am a Virgo moon. And I also, my Virgo moon is conjunct my Virgo Vesta, which is very like eternal flame burning, always trying to be practical and praise God. And my midheaven, which is how I approach my career, is also Virgo. So like, I feel like when it comes to like helping people take this very complex subject of astrology, like I'm always trying to I'm always not trying to, but I'm always orienting to how is this practical, how is this relevant, what can we do with this information, where does the rubber hit the road. And so I'm so excited to be able to share this with all of your people today, that there are so many practical things, because you can get lost in all of the charts and all of the esoteric things and stuff that feels like you can just get lost wandering down those paths and not really do anything with the information. So there's definitely some things you can do. For sure, do the daily videos that Allie always has coming out with the Eclipse portals that can guide you step by step. I think the other thing is just acknowledging that there is a huge, massive amount of growth in that 2 weeks. Like, if you're like, oh no, I've already grown a lot, I don't need any more growth. First of all, you're wrong. I love you. You're wrong. And second of all, like, also just being aware of that and even marking it on your calendar. Like legit, go make an event from like March 25th until April 8th and just put it on your calendar to say we're in an eclipse portal, so that you can just be aware if significant life changes. Like it's almost like we pause in time, and like God and his angels and this very loving universe kind of rearrange all the things in our life. Sometimes it can be like that in that 2 week window, where you'll come out of this eclipse and your job situation will be changed, your relationship dynamic will be changed, you're like, you don't know what. And again, it's nothing to fear, but that things can be arranged for your highest and best good, kind of in this like freeze moment of just 2 weeks, 18 months worth of growth in 2 weeks. It's almost like we're barely moving. And if you can barely move through the eclipse, I've had people say that too. They're like, oh, I just feel like I was so tired through the whole thing. Great, embrace that. Just be wherever you're at and embrace that. But beyond that, because of this eclipse portal being an Aries Libra eclipse portal, I definitely want to unpack that for everybody today, as well as we have some other things to look at. Because the North Node is in Aries and the South Node is in Libra, what we have with that is we have, this is the trajectory that we are all on collectively. So we have the North Node is that little horseshoe looking thing in Aries, and the South Node is like the flip of that horseshoe looking thing down in Libra, which means collectively we are moving away from a Libra energy right now. There's other times where we move towards it, but right now we are in the season of moving away from Libra energy and moving towards Aries energy. And the second eclipse of this portal, being a new moon in Aries, is going to bring us to that strong, strong, strong Aries focus. And Aries and Libra have an interesting relationship with the masculine and feminine polarity. And so if you haven't already gotten Allie's newest book, Magnetic Femininity, stop, pause this, do not pass go, get the link. I'm sure will be here in the comments for this book, because this book does such a beautiful job. Like, I actually ordered the book like immediately after she released it, and I like sat down and physically read the book. Like, I can't remember the last time I physically read a book, right? Because I'm an Audible girl now, but like I needed to take in this information and let it push my buttons and let it cause me to reconsider things that I hadn't considered before. And this is the path that we're being called to, is this masculine and feminine polarity. Because we're moving towards Aries, which is a very masculine energy. Collectively, we're moving towards that. So what does that mean for feminine women? But moving towards this and moving away from this cooperative, overindulgence in the other person's experience in a negative way. So how do we retain our ability to still care about another person while letting go of the Libra energy that isn't serving us? So I'd love to hear your
Whoa.
thoughts.
Wow. Yes. Oh my goodness. There's like so much in there. Um, whoa. Let me pull it back up again just to like, oh no, I
The
lost the
visual.
chart. Where'd it go? Um, okay. So yeah, there is so much masculine, feminine stuff going on with this eclipse. And uh it is really interesting. Because yeah, Aries is definitely associated with that more masculine, like it's the warrior energy, it's the fighter energy. And one thing that I've been thinking about a lot with this is that um one interpretation of this axis and this exact nodal path can be a call to move away from that mask that we've put on of um I'm putting on a smile so that we can just get along, and moving towards the Aries energy just has no time for that. Like that is one thing that I really appreciate about Aries sun, Aries moon energy. Like whatever you've got going on in Aries, like it's not gonna hide it from you. It's Libra will hide it from you. Libra will hide the truth if it means we're gonna get along better, if it means that Libra's gonna look more beautiful, if the relationship is going to appear smoother on the surface. But Aries has no time for that. Aries is going to like let you have it
Yeah.
and explode this whole thing
Unfiltered.
unfiltered. Yeah. And so one thing that I feel like I've been seeing already is a number of just like people I personally know, where in their primary relationships, whether that's marriage or dating or just friendship or like relationships with their siblings, they're like getting to this point where they're having to say, you know what, I think I have to put in some boundaries.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to step into that Aries where I'm unfiltered, where I just have to say, you know what, I swept this issue under the rug for 25 years and I am done today. And like, there's my resignation, please accept it. I'm out. I think we're gonna see I mean, it's gonna look different person to person, but where are we going to see ourselves taking off the mask and finding ourselves that kind of point of no return where we're just going to have to say, no, I truly cannot handle this anymore. I cannot sweep it under the rug anymore. I think we may see a little bit of that start to boil over in the coming days.
Yes, and you've made me think of a book. I usually reference this like when I do one-on-one sessions, and I recommend it to all of my astrologers. This book, Astrology for the Soul by Jan Spiller. This entire book is only about the nodal path. And if you're only going to get one book on astrology for your own personal like study and all of that, I actually recommend it's this book, which seems weird because it does not teach about all of astrology. But if you're using astrology to heal and to progress and to really get to know yourself, I actually recommend it be Astrology for the Soul. because only like the first 18 pages are about the nodal path, like what it means, how it works, and the rest is a reference with sections for each nodal path. And I haven't pre-looked at this, but I wanted to just read the bullet points of the beginning of the section where she has like an overview, and this is the North Node in Aries, and she has attributes to develop and tendencies to leave behind. And this is what we're doing collectively the whole time that the North Node is in Aries, but even more pointedly during the eclipse portals caused by the North Node being in Aries. So she says attributes to develop, work in these areas can help uncover hidden gifts and talents. Independence, self-awareness, trusting one's impulses, courage, constructive self-interest, moderation in giving, and self-nurturance. Now, the tendencies to leave behind, these are the things that will make you want to throw the book across the room if you're reading about your own nodal path. And they're the things where you're like, yep, I knew that. Like those are the areas that I kind of consistently just struggle in. But this is what we're collectively doing. Even if your nodal path is not in Aries and Libra, this is what we are going through together. So she says, working to reduce the influence of these tendencies can help make life more easy and enjoyable. Seeing oneself through others' eyes. So letting go of that, debilitating selflessness, being Mr. Nice or Mrs. Nice, obsessive attachment to fairness and justice, codependence, attaching to external harmony, and a tit for tat mentality. That's what we're being called to let go of. And so you can kind of see the masculine and feminine in that somewhat, and to go inside yourself and be like, where am I showing up in this? What parts of these is appropriate and it's time for me to really let go of doing things like that. That just overblown up sense of justice is kind of what stood out to me, is that it's not the time to be hyper focused on all of that. And so allowing ourselves to kind of sit with that and journal on it and go through, oh, we have a guest.
We have a special guest for a moment. Hello, say hi.
I love it. Hello, hello. We're so glad that you've joined us.
Yeah, so silly. Are you gonna go play? You gonna snuggle? Okay. Sorry, I lost my train of thought with my little guest.
As they sometimes do, for sure.
Yes, it's true. Um, yeah, well, let's talk for a little minute about what it may look like as we transition. Like we're heading into Aries energy, and all of us are called to really dig into the healthy side of Aries energy. What might that look like? What might that look like, particularly for women who also want to be in their feminine energy when
Right.
Aries energy is not always something that we traditionally associate with being super feminine.
For me, what comes to mind is I love dichotomies. I love things that seem like they don't fit together, but they do. And in the pondering of that, we can just have so much peace come to our life. But the idea that it has absolutely nothing to do with you, and it has everything to do with you. It is all about you, and it has nothing to do with you. Just the contrast of both of those is so potent because, like, as women specifically, which is largely who follows your channel, but not exclusively, but speaking to that audience, we do need to make it all about ourselves. We do need to put ourselves first, that body care and that like pouring into our own cup. If we don't put ourselves first, if we don't make it all about us, we cannot not only show up for the people in our lives, but we just can't be happy. And like that's the whole point. We are here for joy, and we're not here to just be in total servitude all the time. That is not what God intended for us. It's a beautiful thing when we can all come together and support, but we have to put ourselves first, and also to realize that other people's stuff has nothing to do with us. Yes, we might have responsibility, we might be contributing and all of that, but we have the ability to say like, oh, you're having a bad day, that has nothing to do with me. I can have compassion and I can love you and I can be there with you in that, but that there is an element of we only get to deal with the stuff that's ours. And so I feel like that Aries is putting ourselves first. Like that's the stronger note here for this 18-month cycle is, are you putting yourself first in appropriate ways, in the ways that are in alignment with integrity, in the ways that you feel God is calling you to do? And is there more that you can do to prioritize yourself, your self-care, your mental health, your physical health, spiritual health, all of these things? is there more that can be poured into that? And where are you holding on too much? No, I have to take care of this person. They're my child, or they're my spouse, or they're this dear friend that I've had for a long time. Like, where are we over entangling ourselves with the care of others in ways that are not righteous? And that takes like surgical precision that really can only be directed by God on how to remove those.
Yes, no, thank you. It is really interesting. Well, and of course, like my baby coming in to hang out as we record. Sh uh, we find ourselves, particularly as women, but as men also, having to navigate this balance of um, things like childcare and dealing with caregiving for our children, our parents, in my case, my disabled brother, all of these kinds of situations. And how do we also take care of ourselves, the caregiver's biggest question, right? And this is definitely an eclipse portal that's really going to bring that right up. And we're not going to be able to escape that. I think we're going to see situations organically arise that really force us to apply a few little brain cells to this question. And the real secret is that the only person that can give us the accurate answers for ourselves is our creator. Only God is really qualified to
For our
tell us what.
circumstance, for our season
Yeah.
of life, for the dynamics that are going on, because it will look different. You can't get some aha and be like, oh, I know how it goes, and go write a book and tell the whole world, this is how you deal with being a caregiver or showing up as a parent or things like that. You can't, your answers are not going to be universally applicable, but they are so important for you to seek out your own answers on how do you navigate the season that you're in.
Yeah, thank you. And it is important to note that this is a season. Like, I think one of the things about eclipse portals is that in the moment it can feel so heavy and it can feel eternal. Like we get into this and it just feels like this never ends. This is so hard and so horrible. And I mean, not everybody's eclipse portal is like that, but I've certainly have had several where it kind of felt like that for me, and I hear from people typing in about their experiences where all sorts of crazy stuff is happening and it feels so long in the moment. During the last eclipse portal, during the actual moment of the eclipse, my husband's grandmother was hospitalized with pneumonia. Like in that like little hour-long period of as that eclipse was transiting over, her lungs started to fail and she needed to go to the hospital. And during that 2-week period between those two eclipses, I mean, it was a life or death situation where every single day, everyone in the whole family was sitting there saying, like, okay, is she going to live? Is she not going to live? What are the doctors saying? What's going on? Are we going to need surgery? Are we going to need that? And in those moments, um, we can kind of we get so zoomed in on the like tiny thing that we lose the bigger perspective. That in the moment it feels so stressful, and if we just let it play out a little bit longer, everything plays out. And it doesn't always feel like that. And especially we can find ourselves in situations that take years or even decades to play out, but they do play out. They
Yes,
always do.
absolutely. Beautifully said. And also, I think one of the most practical things that we can keep in mind, for me personally, one of the things I've learned is that pain is not the enemy, that we are not here to avoid pain, that if we are trying to avoid pain, if the avoidance of pain, of discomfort is the goal, it's actually the avoidance of pain that becomes the problem. Because I started my professional career as a childbirth educator, helping people to know just how to navigate the birth experience in a way that was very honoring and reduced fear so that they could move forward with the birth that they wanted for whatever reason that they wanted to avoid receiving artificial pain medication during the labor process. And so I helped hundreds and hundreds of couples to do this. I love to teach. I attended a whole bunch of births, but my passion was really with the teaching. Surprise, surprise. And in doing that, like I saw so many applications and I really thought about physical pain and avoiding pain and how you can't actually sidestep it. It will always show up in other areas of your life. Pain is a very interesting topic when you spend time with it. I'm sure lots of people listening have had their own perspective on examining pain. from a myriad of reasons because it's such a powerful life teacher. Pain is a communicator. It is not the goal to avoid. But when we make it the goal to avoid, we lose tons of perspective. When we think, no, we can't let Nana die, like at all costs, because that would be painful for me. But we can lose perspective. Or if we think like we have to do it this way because that will reduce the amount of pain. It is amazing how much we can derail our lives when we're trying to avoid pain, when most pain is extremely temporary. I would far rather go through something very painful for a short little bit and have beautiful, ongoing, positive ramifications than do everything I can and spend gobs of energy and, days, months, weeks, years trying to avoid pain. Because I've done that in my life in emotional ways where I've gone so far out of my way to avoid pain that I created absolute chaos in my life and other people's lives. And once I realized like, oh, having a 5-minute uncomfortable conversation can positively impact your life on the day to day to day, like that's practical right there. And I have 5 placements of Libra in my chart. So you better bet I learned this lesson slow of that it's more powerful, it's more helpful to slowly to go through life in a way that you can actually confront and deal with the things that are not serving you and have those uncomfortable conversations or be willing to tolerate a little bit of pain so that you can get to where you need to go. And I'm not saying like go find the pain, but don't let the avoidance of pain be the decision-making factor.
Thank you for that. Wow. Yes, and agree 1,000%. I feel like so my natal Mars is in Aries, which I think checks out. Would
I
anyone
super love it.
disagree with this? No. Everyone knows it's not hidden. um, but
Your passion and intensity comes through at times.
it's true. But I have always been one that will rip off the band-aid. My actual band-aids and the emotional band-aids. And I'm really not one to shy away from the confrontation in a relationship that has to take place to keep the relationship healthy. And and I think that this is really an energy that we're heading into is the energy of ripping off some band-aids, whether we like it or not. And perhaps you've had this situation before where maybe you didn't mean to rip off a band-aid, and then suddenly here you are in the middle of a horrible conversation that like just happened because you couldn't hide it anymore. I've played that game as well myself.
I don't
um,
think I've had that experience. I think I've had opposite experiences. But I
where
could see how your Mars Aries, you like find yourself in the middle. You're like, okay, here we go. I wasn't prepared for this, but let's do it.
oh, I thought that was like a universal experience. Well, maybe not.
No, Mars, Capricorn, Virgo, Moon. No, I think through everything before I say it.
Oh boy. Well, for me, sometimes that has not been true. I have found myself in situations where I'm like accidentally undoing the band-aid and I didn't even plan it. But I think we're going to see for many of us where the band-aids are getting ripped off, and
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Like Naomi said, pain is not the enemy here. And the more we demonize pain, the more we will experience pain. That's just the nature of pain. The more you put off actually feeling it, the more intense it is when you actually do feel it. Oh man, I'll spare you, but yesterday I was reading some medical case studies of a person it was Phineas Gage, if you're familiar with him. He's like a famous neurological patient because he had
Oh
a
yes, yes, with the
yeah, he had
rod
like cut
through
through
his
his brain, the
brain.
rod cut through his brain in the 1800s, and he survived, and he was like basically normal. He had some like personality changes, but anyway, he did not receive any kind of treatment for this like massive like true like bisection of his brain because nobody knew what to do, and he got this little brain infection which he survived and was like fine in the end, but in the moment it was deeply disgusting and horrible. Don't look it up, I'm telling you now. But
I want
I
to
did.
look at his
I looked
natal
it up,
chart.
it was gross. Don't look it up. But when we don't, when we allow those toxic things in our hearts to build up, um it just makes it harder. It just makes it harder. In the book, nope, I'm gonna forget which book it was. One of the books by Jordan Peterson. It might be 12 More Rules for Life, his second book about chaos. But in one of his books, he talks about this guy who every day for lunch his wife would she would serve dinner on big plates and breakfast on big plates, and she would serve their lunch on like salad plates, that are kind of like smaller, and he hated it, but he never said anything. And so So fast forward 30 years of every day having a lunch on a plate that he hated. And one day he just snaps and he's like, I freaking hate these plates. And he starts like smashing these plates and he's like losing his mind. And he's like, for 30 years, I've put up with this BS. I've eaten my lunch on these stupid plates. Like, how dare you say really stupid? And he like loses it. And the point of this story was, wouldn't it have been nicer if on day 2 or day 7 or year 2 or year 7, this husband had just said, you know, I hate eating lunch on a kid plate. Can I please have a grown up size plate for my lunch? Like, God, that's all it would have taken.
Absolutely. Or even a question of like, hey, sweetheart, like, help me understand. Like, what's going on here? Like, I'm so curious to understand because I'm not enjoying this, and this isn't what I would have done, but tell me because I love you and I respect you. How did you come to this conclusion? I'm so curious. I've learned to basically master that conversation because I was the avoidant. And being now on my third marriage and having very terrible breakdowns in communication and all the things in my first two, I just took the slow boat on learning these things. But when I was dating my husband, I told him, I said, I need you to tell me if you're not happy with something. Like, I need your honesty. I need your truth. Like, this is a non negotiable because it's so alarming to my nervous system to find out that somebody's been pissed off at me for like the last 3 months or 5 years or whatever about something I've been doing that I had no idea. Like, that is more jarring and more of something that I super want to avoid than, no, just tell me I'm lovely and perfect all the time. Like, I want nothing to do with that. And there's also something very expansive, like you're breathing for the first time when you really say the thing that has been bothering you, when you allow the truth to set you free. And sometimes it comes out explosive, like that man that obviously had not learned the lesson of what laws he needed to obey to have a quality marriage, which is sharing the things that you don't like, or just getting curious and being like, why, sweetheart? Why would you make this? Why do you always park the car that way? Why do you like? I'm so curious and not accusatory, but going into it with love and questioning because it's like, I love you. I respect you. This is a weird decision that you keep making. Please bring me into your line of thinking. Like, if we just could do that with our friends and with specifically spouses, I think, and with our children. And so when we can say the thing, anybody who's gotten divorced and initiated the divorce for reasons that needed to happen knows what I'm talking about. When you finally say, I'm done and I can't do this anymore, it is the most glorious feeling in the world. And it doesn't just happen with divorce, where you learn, like, oh my gosh, the truth really did set me free. And it's learning the balance of how to navigate that energy moving forward. But that like expansion that happens when you finally say, this situation is not working for me, whatever it is. And obviously, I'm not advocating for divorce at all. I think marriage is a beautiful thing and the best playground for being able to confront our issues of anything that I've seen on this earth. But when you're in a situation that is truly violating boundaries and not serving you, and you finally say with calmness and a centeredness and say, this is not working for me, I am done, it truly does unlock us. And then you have all of this power that you can't ever have while you're basically lying and manipulating, which is what it is when you just keep your mouth shut, when you know that you're not okay with something happening.
Thank you. Them's fighting words, but I have to say I agree. I do agree. I mean, as you said that, I'm like, oh, I feel the people getting like, oh my gosh, I'm a liar. Yes, this is me and Naomi teaming up to say, if you are not being honest in your relationships about what you are truly feeling in those relationships, you are a liar. You are a manipulator. You are manipulating your relationship by sweeping the things that are actually important to you under the rug. If your relationship is something that is worth keeping, it's worth
Yes.
keeping it in an honest place. And the only way
Yes.
to keep it in an honest place is to start being honest. We got to stop trying to lie and manipulate our way into a peaceful relationship when sometimes we got to just rip off the band-aid, have the tough talk. And I will say, I mean, Naomi mentioned my book. I have like 25 copies, but they're all the way over
Just
there.
out of reach.
I'm like, I want to show it to you, but I can't. But Magnetic Femininity has, in my opinion, an excellent chapter on how to have these kinds of conversations in a non-confrontational way that can open up a safe dialogue instead of an accusatory, attacking dialogue. Please do not come away from this conversation and go and have an unsafe ripping off the
Explosive,
Band-Aid,
destabilized, yes.
explosive. Yeah, do not do that. Go get the book, go read the book, go chapter 4. Chapter 4 is the place where it's at. Go read chapter 4 and internalize it with your brain and your heart, and then begin to make the shift from trying to lie and manipulate your way into a peaceful marriage, and start shifting your marriage or any of your relationships into a space of actual trust and honesty.
It's a skill. It's a skill. And the only reason, so if you're somebody who's getting triggered right now and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a manipulator and a liar, sweetheart, the only reason you're doing it that way is because you really don't know a better way. That's all that it is. You're not like, I know a better way to do this, but I'm going headlong into doing it the wrong way. It's not even the wrong way. It's just you're not going to get what you want doing it that way. And so when you know better, you do better. Maya Angelou, like totally foundational words. Once you understand that you can approach your partner or any situation with curiosity and love and innocence and surrenderedness, and you can know that you can look for the truth and that the truth can emerge where it's friendly to you and friendly to them. I believe the truth can always be friendly to all sides. I really do. Unless somebody's, bound to their ego and they're like, I refuse to look at the truth. But if both people are willing to say, I value this relationship over what I thought was true, and you move together into it, you can accomplish anything. You can overcome anything. And when we really, really know that, and we know that the truth is safe and we can move from that place, I feel like that's a lot of what you talk about in chapter 4 of you can trust that this person loves you and wants the best for you. And maybe you can't, and that's a separate issue, but going into it and approaching it from that expectation, you can shift. If you learn to manipulate and control, if that's how you were taught that life works, cool. That's okay. That's been your life path. Forgive yourself, love what you do have, and move forward. And I feel like now this energy is only facilitating that conversation even more, because it's allowing us to really fully see, let go of that codependency, sweetheart, let go of the manipulation, let go of the in over entangling, and move forward confidently into truly, truly caring for yourself and the truth. I feel like Aries is such a sign of truth, similar to a Sagittarius, that it's just, they want the truth above all else.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Once again, Naomi's site is elixology.com, and I'll put a link below. She's obviously an excellent teacher, so go check out everything that she's got going on. If you haven't done them, or if you have, go do the foundational sessions at allieduzetclasses.com. Totally required viewing before this eclipse portal starts. And yeah, I'll also recommend Magnetic Femininity, and I'll put the link down there below as well, because I think that's also good required reading, at least for women leading into this. Recommended, recommended, recommended. So thank you so much, Naomi. This was amazing.
Thank you, Allie.